Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Ken Abel, who's the Sales Director at Trailstone Insurance Group. Ken, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here.
Hey, so I am a marketing guy and sales director is a sales initiative. So I want to jump into, what your definition of the difference between sales and marketing is, because there's a difference. So I always love exploring that. In fact, I was on a teaching workshop that I was presenting last night for the Small Business Development Center here in Colorado. And one of the first questions was, tell me the difference between sales and marketing. So I always love getting perspectives that way. But before we jump into that, give us a little bit of your background. What has your journey in the business world been, and then what led you to Trailstone Insurance Group?
Sure. That's a good question too. It's hard to answer. I was a marketing manager and a graphic designer at a landscape architect firm for the last 10 years before this. So coming into insurance was a complete 180 for me. But I grew up, I wanted to be an artist my whole life. I went to school to be an artist and went that graphic design route, loved it. But I don't know, I felt a little stagnant over time. And my wife actually got into the insurance industry right before me, about a year or so before me. And, when she got on board, she's working from home and having this great life. And then working there for a year, she was already making as much as I did. And I was kind of capped out already at the top of my level. So I was like, wait, what am I doing? So
and it's not necessarily a matter of, my wife's making more. It's a matter of, am I in the right profession for the efficient use of my time?
Right. Well, yeah, she 1 year and she caught up to me. It took me 8 years to get there. So I was like, wait, something's a little off here. So I looked into it a little bit more and said, let me get my license and give it a shot. And then, the rest is history, I guess. I never thought I'd love insurance, but I love it more than graphic design. And I get asked, why would you go from such a creative career to insurance sales? Like nobody wants to do that, but it's an extremely fulfilling career, helping people out, knowing that if their house burns down, they're going to get the puzzle pieces put back together but be put whole again. And that's so satisfying to me. Yeah. It's why I come in every day.
Well, I think if we could dive in, we probably could go really deep into how is the insurance industry creative. And I'll bet, you know what I'm saying? We could, we don't need to, but there are creative elements of that. And I'm sure that you can go, oh, hey, you know what? In my, as a sales director, I'm able to use some of my graphic design skills. Or when I was an agent, I was able to creatively present solutions to my clients that they're like, oh man, I never thought of it that way. And so the creativity many times is just how you best serve your clients rather than just being an order taker.
100%. Totally agree. Yep.
So you came on board. Now, when did you come on board to the same company that your wife was at? So was that Trailstone?
Yeah, that was at Trailstone. Okay. So cool. She came on board before me, and then I came on board, and it was right in the transition period. Trailstone was transitioning from like a small mom and pop type business at that time to become a full scale, full service insurance agency. So I came right in the middle of that, and so I helped out growing the front end of the company with quoting and time management to help our agents be more efficient. And it really helped me learn the physical ins and outs of quoting and the systems and the technical side of everything. And then after that was established, I wanted to be a full-fledged agent at that point. I was like, okay, this is done. So I'm ready to go.
Because at that point, there is learning and licensing and education that has to take place. You can't just jump in and quote unquote sell insurance, right?
Oh yeah. You have to get licensed before you even come on board. Yeah. That's just required by the state.
Yep. And so that's a really good thing to keep in mind, because it's like, you are legitimately knowledgeable about the insurance industry, but then it's what you bring to that position that helps your clients realize, ooh, I really care because, I can bring some of my background or some of my passions and yes, I have to be licensed so that people feel comfortable, like, okay, working with. But what was one of the first things when you kind of got on board, got inside and it confirmed, ooh, this is why my wife was here and doing so well? What were some of those things that you noticed at the start?
That's let me think. So it's challenging at the start, especially for me. You know, I'm a pretty introverted kind of guy. So um, picking up the phone, calling people, talking to them about insurance, which it's not something I did before.
Yeah,
it was challenging, but once you get over those couple first phone calls, get over your nerves, it's exciting. It's almost like that thrill of the chase. I'm hunting down people, trying to dig deep into what they truly need, and then it's exciting trying to figure out what's the best option for them. And you're also, of course, trying to save them money. That just comes naturally, but just really trying to like dive deeper into what they truly need. It just is very exciting.
You know, what I found is when people say to me, well, I just don't feel like I'm a salesperson. So I don't know that I can do that. And I will say, good. You don't want to be a salesperson because people can tell that and sense that. And, they can smell commission breath, coming a mile away, like push, push, push. But in reality, if you're not a salesperson or, wired kind of person, then that person goes, hey, you know what? Maybe Ken's just asking me those questions to help me fully understand or take advantage of, or, and you come off being helpful and being that educator, that advocate, not a pushy salesperson. And in reality, if you've got a spectacular product and can help people, it's kind of like your duty. You feel like, no, seriously, maybe I said it the wrong way. Let me just make sure you understand. This is, you can say no, that's great. I'm not going to push you, but you need to realize this and this and this. And finally, when the light bulb goes off, they're like, oh, wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think that being an educator and an advocate for the success of your client is a whole different mindset shift that most salespeople don't have.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I don't consider myself a salesman. I consider myself just building relationships.
Yep.
I'm here to help you. I have the heart of a teacher. And if we dig deep and we find out that this person is better off where they're currently at, then I will tell them you are best to stay where you're at. And I'd love to try again next year. Sure. But I can't recommend moving at this time. And
have you ever heard of B2B or B2C, like, business to business or business to consumer? Well, there's one, and I'm sure this is like a little gimmicky thing, but it really resonates well, but it's people need to think of it more as H to H, human to human.
Especially nowadays,
right?
You can't even connect in person anymore. So
real is rare. Just be real and helpful and authentic and just be helpful. And I think when people can tell, when people can tell, so how are you today? And so tell me about your cover. And what do you know? Just talk to me.
A script,
right?
That's why I tell all the agents coming on board. They're not a client. You're not reading off a script.
Yeah.
They're your best friend. You're just trying to help them out.
Well, it's like, relating it over. I've never done acting, but, you hear this about acting, boy, you just make it look so easy. Well, yeah, it's because I know the script so well that I can make it my own. And you do make it look so easy. So in sales, you need to know your product so well, like Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his book, Outliers, 10,000 hours. You need to know your stuff so well that you're just talking. And when someone brings it to you, a question up, you're like, oh, well, here's the thing. Not because you're flipping through some script going, ooh, what do I say when they ask me that? No, you just know it. And then you're just communicating.
Absolutely. Yep. An actor doesn't just wing it. Most actors don't just wing it. They practice nonstop, day in and day out. They know their stuff. Same thing here too. You got to know your stuff.
Yep. You got to, and you got to be up on it. And once you know it and you can check that box and say, I know it. Well, guess what? Any industry, but especially the insurance industry with all the many lines of business that you guys focus on, does it change once in a blue moon? It might change once a week for nuances and things.
Insurance is always changing. Yep.
You've got to stay up on that and then realize like, oh, hey, you know what? A lot of people might not have mentioned this to you, but recently the state of Colorado or recently the industry changed to be this. So I think that really does prop up that trust when someone can go, look, totally your call, but here's just something you need to realize the industry changed and here's how it could affect you. And people are like, oh, now that makes a lot of sense. So let's get back to that first point I was making. What do you feel the difference between sales and marketing is?
I mean, marketing is such a broad spectrum. You could be a networker and relationship manager where you're connecting businesses to businesses and closing deals that way. Or it could be like graphic design where you're creating ads and social media posts. So marketing is huge. sales is almost just as huge. You got a physical product sales. We're selling an intangible product. They're not getting anything from our sales. So it's very different than being a car salesman or a jewelry salesman. But at the end of the day, you are trying to convince somebody to go with you and your product.
Yep.
So,
and you better be creative in asking the right questions and listening to what they really need. And I remember way back in the day, I went through this course where in the financial services world, and they were teaching this, I forget what they specifically called it, but like the stair-step method of asking questions. Oh, hey, Ken, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now tell me, why is that important to you? Oh, well, that's important because, and then you can't go 427 levels deep because at some point they're like, come on, just answer my dumb question. But when you can get a few levels deep and you're like, well, why is that important? You finally get to the point that, oh, this really wasn't the true reason. It was a bullet point of your drive. But in reality, you're most concerned with, and now people feel heard and you're able to say, hey, because you're interested in, here's the point about this policy that's so important. All the other stuff that, of course, you need to have these things in a policy, car, home, whatever. But here's the thing that you really need to keep in mind. And I think that listening and being creative to ask those questions that draw people to come to their own conclusion, not to try to sell the deal. And that's, to me, that is a big skill set to have.
That you hit it right on the nail. And that's where the two blend, is that detective work, digging in, finding out what they truly need. It crosses the line right there between marketing and sales.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a detective.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that, like sometimes the top producing salespeople in whatever industry, you ask them, why are you so successful? Sometimes they're like, I don't even know. I just kind of, but there's those success leaves clues traits like, well, they care about people. Well, they have the heart of a teacher. Well, they know their stuff. They ask the right questions and then they just present some options. Now there's some sales nuances like, look, here's the deal. You have to get this set up by the end of this week, because not because I need to make my commission, but because they're literally changing whatever. So there can be some things where you have to get people to take action, but if you can do it, you must do it ethically. So I think that's huge. So We've been talking here now about, you made a transition into insurance. You learned the business. You were being an agent. At what point do you get given the opportunity of, hey, maybe you need to be the sales director, which is what you are now?
Sure. Yeah. So I was an agent for about 2 years solid. And then we had a sales director before, and everything was fine, but he had a different opportunity to move on to. And so the position opened up, and I thought to myself, I'm already helping everybody else. I am literally that guy everybody goes to ask for help, because that's just my nature, I guess. I don't know. But I thought, I actually would be okay at that position. I think I would be I would like to be that resource for them to teach them and help them grow. So I put myself out there, and here we are. Right
now, are you? I don't know what it's called in the industry, but kind of like a player coach. Like, do you play and coach, or do you produce and sales director? Or are you purely just helping people succeed as the sales director?
No, I don't. That would be too much. I don't want to, it's a lot of work and a lot of effort to be an actual agent. That's a full day's worth of work. So my goal is to help others be the best agent they can be.
Neat. Okay. So when you made that switch, I asked the question about, what did you notice, first of all, coming into the industry? Let's think about that same mindset when you switched from being an agent to now sales and sales director and recruiting and hiring and helping those agents become the best version of themselves. What were some of the things that you noticed when you made that transition?
Yeah. So most people, when they come into this industry, they're hired by the insurance agency, and then they're kind of left to their own devices. Figure it out. We have some tools for you, but good luck. That's not what we wanted to be here. So we implemented a bunch of training and education and team building type of workshops to really, like you said earlier, help that agent become the best of the best from that knowledge, from that expertise. And in doing so, then our agents now have that heart of a teacher, because they truly do know the industry in and out. So that's what we're pushing for.
And you probably had a unique perspective, being the producer, but not, having 3 decades as a producer. You came from another industry. You had fresh in your mind that, this was new and this was a little confusing to me and I had to work really hard. So how could I then make new agents have a easier, smoother transition? Oh, it'd be neat if, it'd be so wonderful if I had this. So let's go ahead and put this in place. So I think that recency really gave you some fresh perspective too.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That perspective and just understanding, knowing that this is what I felt. This is probably what they're feeling. Even if they're not expressing that feeling, I'm pretty sure this is something that they're going to need. So let's talk about it.
In psychology, they say you don't know what you don't know, because at some point you don't know things and that you realize you don't know them. But sometimes there's some things that you don't even know that you don't know them. And I think that many times as a sales director, you could be working with someone going, well, hey, you know what? Have you ever felt this? And they're like, yes, I didn't even realize that. But yes, that's amazing. And then it's almost like you see the light bulb go off and you go, oh man, all you got to do is ask some wonderful questions. Don't feel like you're a pushy salesperson. In fact, I don't want you to sell. Please don't sell. Just teach. And I think maybe some of the people you work with, the light bulb goes off and they didn't even realize that was a thing. Right. They thought that selling insurance or selling a service is push and get the numbers. Well, when you do it the right way, the numbers fall into place and the numbers happen and the referrals happen. So I think that mentality of guiding that process of showing people what they don't even realize is a thing and then going, now let's enhance that momentum.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then doing this 100% remote, it throws a little twist in there too. So I've always been remote myself. So again, just being that proactive person, reaching out, and because it's really easy to be isolated, be your own little island, being remote. It's really easy to fall into that. So, reaching out to these agents and helping them proactively, I think is key to their success.
Yeah, 100%. Knowing like you don't need to have someone shoulder to shoulder next to you in a cubicle to feel you're supported. But when you know that you're an IM away or a text away or an email away or a phone call away, and it's like, oh, I really need this. That support. And proactively when the corporate office or the home office or, Ken, the sales director is reaching out going, hey, what's going on that we can help you with? Proactively, I think that, is another layer to that warm blanket. So I think that's another big piece. And I know that people appreciate that because, maybe some of the people and maybe here's a question for you. Have there been some people that have come on board that have come out of an environment that was not optimal and they come on board here and they go, wow, this is just the deal?
Oh yeah. Other insurance agents. I mean, we have people that come from Allstate or State Farm that, like I said earlier, they're just kind of left to their own devices. Yeah. And then they come on board with us and they're just like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Not just one aspect of it. It's all of it combined. It's our online resources we have for them for when they need to just do some research on their own. It's our availability of our staff members to just be there to walk them through something. And then our other agents, they've all been in the same footsteps that they are in right now, a year or 5 years ago. So they're all willing and able to help each other out. So when we have those other agents that come on board that have been in an industry before, and then somebody else, this last class, somebody asked, well, what do you guys think of this training and their process and their systems? And then a couple of the agents in that same class will speak up and say, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And that's a peer
that help.
Yeah. You're hearing that from a peer. You're not hearing that from the boss going, yeah, right. Because I'm supposed to, I'm corporate, but here's a peer going, I was in your seat 3 months ago and I came on board and I was wondering and worried. And let me just tell you what I've experienced. And so I think that's a huge opportunity there. Mm-hmm. So speaking of opportunity, if someone is listening to this going, hey, Ken, maybe there's something for me. Maybe I need to reach out and connect with you. What's the best way that someone can learn more about Trailstone and then connect with you and maybe have a conversation?
Sure. I mean, they could always visit our website, www.trailstoneinsurance.com. Otherwise, just feel free to reach out to me. You could email me, ken@trailstoneinsurance.com, or you could text me My text line is 720-897-0601. I don't recommend calling me. If you do, leave a message. I'm on screen shares 24/7. So phone is not the best way to get a hold of me. Text, email. I'll reach back out to you and let you know the next steps at that point.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ken. It was a real pleasure talking with you today.
You too, Mike. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.